Just like to declare the meeting open and just advise the members of the public by being in attendance you agree to having your voice or face recorded under the city's live streaming policy. Could I now call upon Deputy Mayor Barry Winmar to do a welcome to country?
Thank you, Worship. I begin by acknowledging my elders past and present. Ngalak nini kuro ngala nois neji nonga boja. Nonga mo jerpa neji nani kwabarak nonga boja kurolong. From the beginning of time to the end, this is Noongar country. Noongar people have been graceful keepers of our nation for many, many years. Jenny and Kadajin jerpa neji wern nonga boja gala ma border. We ask that you look, listen, understand and embrace all the elements of Noongar country. This is forever our home. Hello and welcome. I'm just happy as we gathered here on Noongar country and meeting tonight on Noongar country. Thank you.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here, and before commencing proceedings, I too would like to acknowledge that we come together tonight on the traditional lands of the Noongar people and pay my respects to elders past and present. Could I call upon Councillor Penny to read the dedication?
Thank you. May we, the elected members of the City of Kwinana, have the wisdom to consider all matters before us with due consideration, integrity and respect for the Council Chamber. May the decisions made be in good faith and always in the best interests of the greater Kwinana community that we serve.
Attendance, apology, leave of absence previously approved is nil. Public question time. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1995 and the Local Government Administration Regulation 1996, any person may, during public question time, ask any question. In accordance with Regulation 6 of the Local Government Act Administration Regulation 1996, the minimum time allowed for public question time is 15 minutes. A member of the public who raises a question during question time is to state his or her name and address. Members of the public must provide their questions in writing prior to the commencement of the meeting. Public question time form must contain all questions to be asked and include contact details, and the form must be completed in a legible form. Please note that in accordance with section 3.45 of the City of Kwinana Standing Orders, Local Law 2019, a maximum of 2 questions are permitted initially. An additional question will be allowed by the presiding member if time permits, following the conclusion of all questions by members of the public. We have 3 questions from the public. Could I call upon Riley Johnson to ask his first question? Please just come forward and state your full name and your residential address.
Hi Mayor, hi everybody. Yeah, it's Ricky Johnson, 19 Sloane Drive, Leader, 0459 559 286. I've got a couple of questions here, Mayor. One of them, I haven't got the correct thingy on the jetty one, but on the gym one. The first one, would you like me to read them both, or just?
If you just read the one at a time,
Yep.
or answer them one at a time.
Okay. The gym membership prices for non-concession holders are the highest in the country at the Kwinana Aquatic Centre. Let's face it, it's a middle class area and economic area, and so why are the gym fees so expensive? People will just go elsewhere.
Through Mr. De Cruz.
Thank you, Your Worship. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for your question, Mr. Johnson, regarding the gym membership prices at the Kwinana Aquatic. We understand your concerns and appreciate the opportunity to provide a response. To help address your concerns, we've conducted a comparison with surrounding local government-run recreation centres, the first of which, Melville Leisure Fit, for the same equivalent membership to our premium membership charge at $30, which is $8 more expensive than ours. Rockingham Aquatic, their gold membership is $22.50, marginally more at 50 cents than ours. So Kwinana Aquatic have a premium aquatic membership at $22 a week and a standard fitness membership at $17.50 a week. The Coburn Arc, as an example for their flexi membership, is $24.60 per week. Gosnell's is slightly cheaper at $20 a week. In summary, the key points of difference between Kwinana and regular gyms, I wish to make the point, the Kwinana Aquatic prices are mid-range in comparison to similar facilities run by local governments. Our services and facilities surpass those of a typical gym, and the prices reflect the quality and range of programs in our memberships as well. Our aim is to ensure that facilities remain accessible and affordable to all members of the community. We continuously review our pricing in relation to other services and other centres as well. In addition to that, in closing, the centre's also won several awards for customer service, inclusivity and programs as well. So thank you for the attention that you raise in this context, and we appreciate the feedback.
No worries, thanks. Can I do the second one, Matt?
The second question.
Yeah, the second one. I haven't got the right in here, but basically it was just the Kwinana jetty, the old one, has been pulled down for several years now. And I was just wondering, just put it to your attention if possibly later on down the track, for families, and the amount of people moving into Kwinana is quite good. You see them down the shopping centres, and everyone's having a good time, except there's no jetty. There's a good one down at Coogee, not the fishing one, but the beachside one. It's just a middle range jetty. It's nothing extreme, but at least families can go there Friday, Saturday night and have a bit of a fish. I think we're missing a bit. Thanks.
Yep. Through the CEO answer question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for your question. So the Kwinana jetty was originally pulled down because it was becoming a bit derelict, and plus the wave conditions there were causing issues with it as well. Going forward, there's a number of things which is occurring within the Wells Park vicinity. Obviously, you've got Westport and the development which is taking place there. You also have Fremantle Ports, which is undertaking a major extension to their bulk terminals, and particularly KBJ, which is the terminal which comes off just by Wells Park. So that's going to have quite an impact on being able to do any further development there. So we're currently doing a risk assessment to see how we operate Wells Park into the future. So it's pretty restricted in being able to do things. So we certainly take your point.
No worries. All right. Thank you. Cheers.
Sorry, can I just also add, I do know that over the years since the discussion around Westport, that there has been questions whether there will be any opportunities to actually create a public area within Westport for recreational fishing, similar to what happens at Fremantle. And to date, no one's actually said a definite no. So I guess there's a potential there once that is built as well.
Oh, good one. Thank you.
No problem. And we have a third question from Elfrida Christian.
Oops. Hi, my name's Elfrida Christian and I live at 56 Abingdon Crescent, Wellard. This relates to 18.2, the item 18.2 to do with the glyphosate. In the report it mentions a community survey that's taken every 2 years. I've actually never heard of this or seen it, or I've asked many people and they don't know of it either. Can you please clarify the purpose of this? How is it undertaken? Who can participate? And how do we get notified about it?
Mr. Elkins.
Through the Mayor, the report is undertaken every 2 years as part of our strategic community planning process. So we do quite an extensive consultation process to set the vision for the council, the objectives, outcomes for the council, looking into the future, and the market survey, it's called the market survey, is part of that consultation process. So it's done independently of the council, and it's a robust survey that gives us a good data set that's representative of our community. So the way that people are able to do the survey is a number of opportunities. So we have a large email database and we send that out to the entire database. This year we've just completed one. We included a QR code for anyone who wanted to do the survey and the rates notice, as well as some advice in the rates notice on how you might do that. So anyone who received rates this year, included in the rates pack was a link or an opportunity to join that survey. We also advertise it on Facebook and through our website.
Whereabouts on Facebook is it advertised?
Through the chair, it's advertised, well, it's put on Facebook under the City of Kwinana Facebook page. So like most things that we put out through Facebook, we have our page and it's put out as a post on there.
And I believe it also, a number of people shared them on the familiar chat pages within Kwinana.
Okay. I've never seen them, but I would, like to do that. Thank you.
No problem. That is the only questions. Do councillors have a petition? No presentations. We do have one deputation from Elfrida Christian, if you'd like to come forward. So just if you can also state your name and address. Just for
So my name's Elfrida Christian and I live at 56 Abingdon Crescent, Wellard.
Thank you.
So the purpose of my deputation is to do with the glyphosate, item 18.2. I'm concerned that the requests that I made on the email I sent to all of the councillors and the CEO, which was also then forwarded on to the researcher, were not considered or mentioned in this report. I request that these all be addressed, please, and be taken seriously. And they are, number 1, using steam in high usage areas such as schools, playgrounds, dog parks, walking paths and verges inside houses. Number 2, providing transparent policies and procedures around the usage and application of glyphosate with actually full details of what, when and where it is applied, plus a lot of signage so that people can know what's going on. Number 3, changes needed about the sloppy application of glyphosate by the city, with chemicals spilling onto the pavement, spraying close to private properties and schools, and also during downpouring rain, so that the chemicals are leaching onto the roads and footpaths. I've actually had a case of that, and I brought that up at the time when I asked for the motion to be passed. Number 4, drawing on other examples from 3 other councils, Vincent, Stirling and Fremantle, who are introducing steam in high usage areas. Thank you.
Okay, is that the extent of your submission?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Confirmation of minutes held on the council meeting of the 19th of March. Is there any additional information? Councillors like to have any questions? Someone like to move that way? Move, Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Sargent. Would either councillors wish to speak? Speak against? Put to the vote, all in favour? Against? Carried. Declarations of interest by members or city officers? Neil? Request for leave of absence? There's nothing on item 10, nothing on item 11, item 12, recommendations of committees. Is this the item that needs to move to the next bit? Yeah. Okay. This item will actually be dealt with at 15.1. So 13, there's nothing, no on-block reports. Reports, 14.1, landscape maintenance services. Is there any additional information? Councillors have any questions in relation to this item? Would someone like to move that way? Moved, Councillor Wood, seconded Councillor Acker. Would either councillors wish to speak? Councillor Acker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know the city has gone through an extensive process to onboard this particular contractor, and there are things in place to mitigate the spread of nematodes and these other things, which I think is important to keep a high standard in our ovals and parks and what have you. So thank you to the city staff for the work they put in to get this submission over the line.
Would anyone like to speak against? Put it to the vote, all in favour? Against? Carried. Item 15.1, recommendations of the Bullamara Aboriginal Consultative Committee, April 2025. Is there any additional information? Council have any questions? Someone like to move that way? Moved. Councillor Rouse, seconded. Councillor Sargent. Would either councillors wish to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Another engaging meeting from those on the Bullamara, still finding their feet, but I'd just like to make special mention, congratulations Paul Garlett, who took over the chair position in the absence of the Deputy Mayor, and who I just want to commend on doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. Reading this document, I found very moving to see how this committee has taken concerns and raised them within our community and to support Kwinana. And I just personally want to, it was really fantastic to see Des Burton and is to welcome him into the space of to support in Kwinana. This is something that there is a great need, and to have this support, and I feel that the building blocks that council has done by creating this committee and engaging our elders to go together, this is just, it's a very powerful document, and I highly encourage everyone to vote yes, because this is awesome. Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak against? Put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Councillor Rouse moved it and Councillor Sargent seconded it. Item 16.1, statement of objects and reasons and proposed differential rate and minimum payments for 25-26. Is there any additional information? Council have any questions in relation to this item? Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. Through the chair, can the city please speak to the impact of low rate increases in previous years that were below the CPI and the LCGI, and the cause that can create for the city's capability to maintain service delivery standards going forwards, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's a big question. So what that does is in your future years, it impacts the rate level and then the ability to put on additional rate bases on top of that. So you basically get a gap which is expanding. So you've got a particular level. When you have a future rate level that you then set, the gap becomes slightly high because you haven't had that income coming in previous years. What that does from a council's perspective is your ability to maintain your asset and any other particular services, because you have been below what the cost increases or the service costs are in terms of providing those activities. You're having to manage the budgets accordingly. So you just need to be aware of what your cost pressures are and then manage those accordingly.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just following on from Councillor Sargent's question, would the officer be able to explain that would there have been occasions in the past where a particular rate rise wasn't what was expected, and that there was expenditure and pressure that was put on the budget where there was items that may have had to have been put off or delayed because the rates differential was what was forecast?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the way that it gets managed is you work to within the budget that you have. So so the main area which has a lower level, which has the major impact, is around your asset renewal. And so this is one particular area where the council has taken the right focus to ensure that there is sufficient funding going in now and into the future to maintain the level of service that's required for the maintenance of our assets. And so what is being tried to achieve going forward is to build up that reserve to maintain our growing level of assets, because obviously we're getting more and more assets coming on. as we are a growth council. So what's occurred in the past is that the level of funding going into that reserve hasn't been at the required level.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. And I would like to, for the benefit of the people at home and those who are listening, it is challenging trying to work out and balance the rates between what's the needs of the community now and what's the needs of the community in the future. And it does put pressure on the current council to ensure that we plan for the future, and we are a growth city, and there's expected to be exponential growth within the next 5 to 10 years. Just wanted to make people aware that these decisions aren't taken lightly, and as a council we do deliberate over trying to work out what an appropriate rate schedule and interest looks like. And I must admit that the work that the officers have put in to guide us and inform us on the correct rate that we would nominate at a particular stage, I'd like to pass on my way. Thanks for the effort and time put in for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is there any other questions? Someone like to move that way? Oh, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, I snuck in there at the end. In relation to the community engagement and the, I guess, public advertising to notify residents of their ability to provide feedback on this process, the city has mentioned that there will be information will be made available on the city's website, et cetera, et cetera. Could the city please confirm that this will be visible on the city's website's homepage in a prominent location?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. So it'll be on the front page where we have what our latest activities are, and then it'll also be done through our Love My Kwinana engagement as well. So there'll be information in both spots.
And sorry, follow-up question, if I may.
Why not?
In relation to the social media advertising, would that be via multiple posts or a single post?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, multiple posts.
Cool. Thank you.
Other questions? Someone like to move? Moved. Deputy Mayor, seconded. Councillor Sargent. Sure.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. Reading through this document, I would just like to say to the community and to my fellow councillors, this is something, rates is never a fun topic. Everyone would like to not spend any more money. I truly believe when, as a councillor on the back end, going through all of the processes, going through the budget discussions, talking to the directors, the way that the CEO, Mr. Jack, is leading this ship, he is finding efficiencies. We have major projects to skim now, to not have the money there, to make sure that we can move forwards. In ethical governance, I think that you've come with a very good middle ground to advertise, and I hope the community realises that someone just doesn't sit there and go, hey, let's just chuck on an extra $20. There is an entire conversation and work put in it to present this to community, and please read through the report to see the information is transparently there to go why we are asking for this rate. So I highly agree and thank all of the city staff for all of your effort in coming to this conclusion. And I know raising rates is never a cool or popular topic, but it is something that needs to be done for us to continue this fantastic level of service that the City of Kwinana proudly provides. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against? I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. There's nothing on item 17. Item 18, 18.1, Amendment 165 to the City of Kwinana's Local Planning Scheme Number 2, deletion of ancillary accommodation from Table 1, zoning and use classes. Is there any additional information?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone has a curly question for the Acting Director? No? Someone like to move that way? Moved. Deputy Mayor, seconded. Councillor Acker. Would either councillors wish to speak? Anyone speak against? Put to the vote. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. 18.2, consideration of electors general meeting resolution. glyphosate. Is there any additional information, Mr. CEO?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Rouse.
There are many concerns on social media of contractors spraying glyphosate from moving vehicles. It was actually mentioned by Ms. Christian, in her deputation tonight. Could you please just clarify why and how this is done?
Mr. Elkins.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Moving vehicles is the industry standard way to apply chemicals, and chemicals are applied in all sorts of industries. So we do it in public areas, curbs, footpaths, traffic islands. We do it across our sporting fields. We use it in conservation estates, but obviously agriculture does it as well. So it is normal to use vehicles to apply chemicals. The vehicles provide the capacity to carry the loads that we need to carry. So even when we're in a conservation estate and we have to get into tight places, we'll get a vehicle close and we'll run hoses out, and the person will walk out with the hose from the vehicle. In the case of works where we're doing it adjacent to roads, it also provides protection to the operators. It's a lot safer to be within a vehicle and be able to use a boom spray, a side spray or a hand wand, and the type of example you're giving is a hand wand through the side of the vehicle, because it protects them from an impact from another vehicle.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in correspondence prior to the meeting, the City advised electors members that a do not spray register exists at the City of Kwinana, where a resident can register to have their premises, front verge, nearby areas, etc. excluded from weed management. Could the City please advise how a resident can register and where they can find further information around that process for those who may be interested?
Through the Mayor, we do encourage residents to contact us. We do have a do not spray register. It's currently got 21 properties on it, so there's not an overwhelming desire to be on the register. And there are individuals that do have concerns with chemicals generally. It's not just glyphosate. We use many chemicals in our operations, and we occasionally get contact from residents about the chemical use. And when someone has a concern, it is raised. We have now updated our website to include additional information about our chemical use and the fact there is a do not spray register. But a condition of the do not spray register is you do have to maintain it. And in effect, if you don't want the city to do a spray, if you maintain it, we won't spray. The register is just a way for us to have a conversation. So the website now says if you want to be on the register, email or call us, and we'll have that conversation about how you get on there and what you need to do to make sure that we don't spray.
Just a follow-up question on that one. I know the City of Wanneroo has a kind of a form you can fill out on their website for their do not spray register. Does the city have any kind of intentions to explore that as an avenue to register?
Through the Mayor, we could, but we'd prefer to have the conversation. In particular, we want to have that expectation clear. We're talking about public land, and it's really important to our community that our streetscapes look good. And the conversation we want to have with someone who wants to be on the register is, well, we can do that, we cannot spray, but there's some obligations on you to do that. If you meet your obligations, then we won't spray. But we are talking about public infrastructure on behalf of the whole of the community.
Another question, if I may?
Sure.
How does the city consider strategic planting of species, mulching, and other environmental care methods to, I guess, avoid the need for weed management through chemicals in the first instance in public spaces? I note that the City of Rockingham at its annual electors meeting mentioned that they undertake a lot of landscape management practices like mulching, dense planting, etc. to control weeds, and chemicals are the last resort for them.
Through the Mayor, we do the same thing. The spraying is... so examples of spraying, we do a lot of spraying on turf for our sports fields because we have to deal with weeds that go within the turf. So it's not something we can plant out. We try to keep our turfs healthy to prevent weed growth, but it is necessary to use chemicals to eliminate weeds from our turf. The example that our resident today has given is the curb line spraying. So that's weeds that are getting between the curb, and the weed seed will come from neighbouring properties. So it's not from a lack of approach by the city. Certainly our gardens, we mulch, and if you have a look out the front today, you'll see there's a lot of mulch has been applied, and we certainly pick robust plants that are easily managed and will grow to prevent weed growth within them.
I've just got one more question.
Why not?
Thank you, Your Worship. So in the commentary in the report on alternatives, are there any alternatives known to the city that weren't included in detail in the report? And if so, could the city please provide detail on those other known alternatives? I know there's some more interest in some detail around the steam option, which has been trialled elsewhere in particular.
Through the Mayor, so the steam was addressed in the report, but we have had a follow-up question from Councillor Rouse, so we did a bit more looking into that to answer that question. So steam is not very effective. It introduces a whole lot of new risks. So glyphosate is a very safe product. Steam adds a burning risk to the operator. It also relies on hydrocarbons to create the steam, so it adds a cancer risk to the operator as well. But the biggest issue for steam is it's very inefficient and it's not very effective. So the example we got from the City of Vincent is the cost is about 20 times the cost to use steam than it is to use glyphosate. So the example that we were asked to answer was, what would it cost us to do our footpath, curb and island spraying? Our current cost is about $105,000 a year. To use steam would be $2.1 million.
And I believe the City of Fremantle have actually moved away from using steam for that purpose. Councillor Sargent, I thought we had a free run without a question from you.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. Through the chair, could I just ask, do we use a subcontractor or do we use city staff for our spraying?
Well, the simple answer is predominantly we use a subcontractor.
And the follow-up question to that, is there, like when someone does a high-risk activity, like a scaffolder needs to have a certain licence, is there the staff that perform these tasks, are they required to have some ticket or certificate or safety standard in how they apply?
Anyone applying any chemical is required under the Health Act to have a permit, and the permit then comes with a range of things which covers PPE, operation, the use of the product, disposal of the product, how it's used, etc., etc. Did I miss any?
Yeah, through the Mayor, to just put in context, the biggest risk with spraying is you're going to get hit by a car. The chemicals are very safe. They're independently certified by the federal government, and they operate in accordance with the label, which is the requirement of the federal government. So various chemicals have various requirements. In particular, pesticides have quite high licensing requirements. And again, we use pesticides here to control pests and protect our buildings in the same way we use herbicides to address weed issues. So we also have a very strict safety approach within the city. So we have a big framework where we manage safety risks, and we audit our contractors. Each of our contractors in every part of our business is subject to audits to make sure that they comply with the safety requirements. But again, the biggest risk with chemical spraying on or around roads has been hit by a car.
So as you can see, there's multiple levels of approvals and you know, fact checking and.
Definitely. I think that's where my question was leading, not so much on the chemicals, that there's a process that the city implements of safe work practices so that the people that are doing this are under a guidance of a regulation to go, this is how you do the job for the safest way possible for the community. Am I correct in assuming that?
Through the Mayor, we comply with our obligations on the Work Health and Safety Act, and that requires us to consider hazards and risks associated with those hazards. So again, the biggest risk with roadside chemical spraying is being hit by a car. The reason we use the chemicals that we use is because they're independently scientifically assessed by a federal government agency. They give very clear instructions on what those risks are and how you address those risks. We make sure that occurs. Even though we use a lot of chemicals, the one of particular interest is glyphosate, one of the safest chemicals we do use. And the key risk with that one, the chemical itself, is for the operator doing large volumes of high concentrated chemical mixing. It's not the spraying application because it's a very safe chemical, but there is a risk of eye irritation and skin irritation if you're mixing large volumes of the material and you're not protecting your skin from contact. But that risk is very easily managed, and all the contractors are practiced at that because they do a lot of different chemicals. with regard to the public, it's a requirement that you operate in accordance with the label instructions. That's a federal government requirement. The only requirement from the federal government perspective is you're not spraying it on people, because the chemical is safe. You can walk on the chemical, you can smell the chemical. There is no health risks related to the chemical, so there's no additional thing required. We do put signage up. We make it clear that we're doing that, but there's no additional thing required by the operator.
Sorry, the CEO is going to add a little bit.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just in relation to work health and safety. So one of the things which is reassuring is we've just gone through a LGIS, so our insurance and work health and safety provider. So that assessment covered a whole lot of areas, and one of the areas that they looked at is how the city, our contractors, manage hazards and reducing risks. We were assessed as being exemplary in terms of that approach. So there's lots of procedures and practices in place to ensure that we are maintaining health and safety and compliance, which comes back to also how we manage risks from glyphosate and any other herbicides, pesticides.
Okay, thank you. Could I ask one more question just
Sure.
to follow up on that? Thank you, Mayor Feasy. So then when Alfreda made her deputation, so if some member of the public reported to the city officers of something that is possibly outside of that, that would then be assessed and you would go through. So if for some reason Mr. De Cruz decided that he was going to spray the weeds and not the accredited person and was not doing it correctly. So the city has a process that if a community member has a concern, they report it to the city to be addressed, because you've got a contractor that's working within the requirements of the field. Would that be correct, that if the community, I know you're saying that there are instances of use that people are concerned about. So if someone is concerned, they could come and make a report, and the city could ensure with our policies and processes that that gets addressed in case there is a contractor that's choosing or not working within the standard that we believe they should be.
Yeah, through the mayor, we do, and we get a couple of complaints through the year. We've never had a complaint about the approach of a contractor in chemicals. We generally just get a complaint because someone doesn't like the use of chemicals. We will get several a year about traffic incidents on the road. We now have dash cams fitted to all our vehicles so that we can audit our own driver behaviour, and we have GPSs fitted. So we do take seriously any complaints related to safety, and we investigate. But it'd have to be a genuine safety thing for it to be a safety investigation. If it's not related to safety and it's more a general concern, then we'll respond to it outside of our safety system.
Councillor Kearney.
Would it be possible that when we are spraying certain areas that we could perhaps put it on Facebook or put it on our website to let people know that we're going to be spraying?
Yeah, through the mayor, we do have a pretty big, we do advertise our spraying, but the curb spraying not so much, because it's basically a continuous process. But I have issued that instruction to my staff that they look at how we can communicate the spraying program more accessibly to our community.
Any other questions? No? Would someone like to move the item? Councillor Rouse had his hand up first, but did you indicate that you were happy for Councillor Penny to move an alternative?
I believe you know what she's going to move, so you could do that maybe later on in the debate. Is that possible?
It needs to be moved from the beginning, so. Councillor Penny, please move your alternative.
Yeah, I'd like to move an alternate motion to defer this decision until more information can be compiled and presented to elected members. Sorry, as a point of order, should I speak to why
So, no, sorry, you've moved it, so I now need a seconder for it.
Yeah,
So
okay, great.
please, if you could grab a seat. Is there a seconder for the amended recommendation? Councillor Brown, you second the item. Councillor Penny, please, if you wish to speak on the item.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Councillor Rouse, for giving me this opportunity. There are so many questions and conversation and discussion backwards and forward around this item, especially this afternoon, that it was clear to me that as elected members we weren't clear on the city's processes around this, and if we're not clear, then how can the community be clear? Leading up to this as well, as I was reading the report, I still had many questions, and I noted as well that some of the questions raised by the community were not fully addressed within the report. And so I'd like to really dive deeper into looking at the integrated weed management plans that are advocated by Walga and other local governments in the region. For example, the City of Joondalup, City of Fremantle, Town of Bassendean and City of Wanneroo have all been working with Walga, and Walga have put together an integrated weed management reference group on this topic within the last year. So it's obviously like a hot topic, and local governments are looking at how they can limit the use of chemical application of herbicides, and that is the position of Walga as well, to aim to limit the use of these herbicides. While I note that the recommendation is very sort of absolute, it's an all or nothing statement that the city stop using glyphosate for weeds and to use environmentally friendly alternative and take no further action, when in fact the real world application of glyphosate is a lot more nuanced, where it is a hybrid integrated weed management system that's being encouraged, not only by Walga but also by the Department of Health in their recommendations to local government authorities. There's a guide that they've produced around the management of pesticides in local government and herbicides in Western Australia. And what I'd like to see is for elected members to be presented with this information, for there to be more research around what this looks like, how other local governments are approaching this from a best practice model. You know, we've got a good start, and this has generated a lot of debate, but I'm still actually not clear. I haven't seen all of this information compiled about how we notify community, how we could do this better, what could we do that might mitigate some of the concerns people have around you know, exposure to fresh, wet chemicals. Can we look at alternatives around really high and sensitive uses, sort of areas like parks or childcare centres and children's play equipment, which is what other local governments look at. They try and find ways of limiting the use of this chemical, and while it's deemed safe, it's still the position of many local governments, Walga and the Department of Health, to limit the use where possible. As a progressive city that really looks at you know, treasures and honours sustainability, I think that we should do our due diligence around this. We should really have a good look at it, draw on the research from lots of other local governments, and then make a decision. I'm actually quite and genuinely quite neutral on this issue. I genuinely want more information and to really understand how the city applies this chemical, and if there's opportunities for us to do it better.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Just briefly, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Penny, for those comments. Yeah, I don't see any, I can't at the moment think of a negative consequence for pausing the process to get more information to have a better informed decision, especially not operationally. I don't see a negative impact on the city's operations to pause and provide additional information. So that's just my comment off the back of Councillor Penny's argument.
Someone like to speak against? I guess
May I
by way of
ask
speaking
a
against,
question for clarification, please?
you can.
Yeah, so Councillor Penny
You can just stand, please,
referred
Councillor Russ.
referred to the WALG Integrated Weed Management Working Group. Does the city take note of the findings and any evidence of that working group? And if any of that evidence came to light that there was a viable alternative, cost and effectiveness, would the city alter their operations in the use of glyphosate?
Through the chair, I guess, and this is made clear in the report, that we're not the scientific experts, nor is Walgren, nor is other local government. So anything that was considered, it'd have to be considered by the federal agency that can do these assessments. That's why we've got this high level of confidence. Independent scientists do this assessment, and it addresses really the crux of the motion in the electors' meeting, and that's it's safe to use in the environment, it's safe to use around people, it's a human friendly product. Certainly, if there's a good alternative, because this thing about chemical use does come up, it's because there is a feeling in some parts of the community that they don't like it, and we understand that. So if there's alternatives that are suitable and that are cost effective, then we would certainly look at it. But at this point, there isn't any, and that's why glyphosate is the biggest chemical herbicide in the world.
One more question, Your Worship.
Sure.
And without having to defer the item, is the city is able to ramp up their communications with the residents and improve communication around the use of glyphosate?
Yeah, through the Mayor, as I noted earlier, we do advertise on our website glyphosate because we do use it. It's not just in curb lines; it is in particularly in conservation work, and it is the leading chemical in conservation work. Without this chemical, we really couldn't do a lot of the work we do. But I have issued the instruction to my staff to look at how we can better communicate our routes or our program for this more urban spraying program that we operate.
No other questions? Would someone like to speak against? Councillor Rouse?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. No, I think we should proceed with the item. As Mr. Elkins has stated, that we have the city has all their information that we need, and I think that has been passed on to councillors. And it is a evolving process that we use. So I think by deferring the item now is just dragging out that process and this motion. Thank you.
What would you like to speak for or against? Sure, why not?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've heard the concerns of the community, and I want to acknowledge those ratepayers that came forward to mention those concerns. However, as councillors, our role is to vote for the best overall solution, one that balances health, environmental care, operational feasibility, and cost. Glyphosate is used sparingly and with strict controls alongside other methods like mulching and mechanical removal. Trials of alternatives continue, but at this stage they remain costly and less effective for large-scale use. This recommendation allows us to maintain our public spaces responsibly while continuing to explore better options. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak for the item? No, then Councillor Penny, you can close if you wish.
Thank you, and thank you to my fellow councillors for allowing me to seek an alternative. You know, I hear what you're saying about there has been some information presented. My sense is that this isn't detailed enough. It was a broad stroke costing for if we stopped using glyphosate across the city, and I do think that we've got an important role to play in doing our due diligence around, you know, seeking out these viable alternatives, looking to our neighbours, looking to Walgra as the peak authority, and looking also to the Department of Health in terms of their recommendations to limit the use of this chemical. I'm sorry, I won't say, I don't want to get into the the point about the health impacts of this chemical, it's really, for me, it's about process. It's about respecting the questions that are raised by the community and making sure that we've done our utmost to investigate the motion, the item that they'd like us to consider. I don't feel confident that the costings that were provided to us via email were accurate or really spoke to the nuanced needs of our local government and our weed management, and that's why I think a deeper investigation would be really warranted. And that was my hope as well, that we would get some of that information, we'd understand what our neighbours are doing, and that we would be really well placed to make a decision. So in closing, I really encourage my fellow councillors to support the motion to defer this item either to a workshop or a more detailed report so that we can consider this option fully and look at best case examples from other local governments. Thank you.
So can we just clarify the motion before I put it to the vote?
Yes, I'd like to defer this decision. Sorry, can I just, as a point of order, ask, do I need to determine if I request for it to go to a workshop?
So what's your alternative?
Or
so your alternative is we defer the item, that's it, full stop?
No, it's, yeah, I'd like to defer the item so that we can have a council workshop on it and get more information. And then a report come to council, yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's...
It's too long.
Sorry, so it's you either want to defer it to a workshop or you want to defer it for an additional report. There's actually two separate things.
I'd like to defer it to a workshop.
Okay. I will put the item to the vote. All in favour? Sorry? Sorry, we'll start again. So the item is to defer the item to a workshop for further discussion and direction to the city, I guess. So putting it to the vote, all in favour? Against? Motion lost. So the item is that council note the resolution of the electors' general meeting as per the original agenda. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Rouse, seconded Councillor Acker. Would either councillors wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I'd like to thank Ms Christian for attending the electors' meeting and putting forward this motion, and those others in the gallery tonight and following along who have commented online for such an interest in this motion. And I can understand why they are all concerned. The topic of cancer is something that everyone is highly emotional about, and whether that cancer is a melanoma, lung cancer, breast cancer or esophageal cancer, which I and my loved ones have been affected by, then it's easy to let emotions get in the way of the decisions that we make. Glyphosate has been approved for use by the Federal Department of Health's Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority, which in March 2017 concluded that glyphosate does not pose a cancer risk to humans and that products containing glyphosate are safe to use as per the label instructions. Their scientists monitor scientific journals for new peer-reviewed publications related to chemicals currently approved for use in Australian agricultural and veterinary chemical products. And as of January 2025, 5,425 publications about glyphosate have been considered by the APVMA. Other agencies like the European Chemical Agency and the European Food Safety Authority have concluded that glyphosate is unlikely to pose a carcinogenic risk to humans. As the officer report states, the perception that glyphosate is unsafe is due to it being listed on WHO's list of probable carcinogens. The World Health Organisation's International Agency for Research on Cancer has glyphosate listed in Group 2A, which means there's limited evidence that it causes cancer in humans and sufficient evidence in experimental animals. However, test animals being experimented on are exposed to much larger much larger and extreme doses that humans would normally be exposed to. Toxicologist Dr. Ian Musgrove has been quoted as saying, in fact, if you tried to get the concentrations we see in animal studies, you'd have to eat something like 0.5 kilogram of glyphosate a day. Alongside glyphosate on WHO's Group 2A list are the consumption of red meat, beverages above 65 degrees Celsius, workplace exposure as a hairdresser or barber, and working night shift. Steam treatment seems like a good alternative, however it is both cost and labour intensive. In an ABC radio interview on 4th December 2023, as a result of City of Vincent considering a similar motion to this one, then Mayor Emma Cole said, "We looked at the cost for us to do steam on our footpaths, curbs and traffic islands. Currently we're spending $26,000 a year to do that once a year. With glyphosate, steam would cost us $518,000 and require 5 treatments a year." So based on that Mr Elkins has replied to us, our cost of $105,000 at the moment would be the equivalent of $2.1 million if we were to treat those areas with steam. Mr Elkins also explained the risk of steam application, being burns, being hit by a car, and the risk of the use of diesel to the operator, make it not a really viable alternative. There has been various comments on social media, some of which have been shared to councillors by Ms Christian, claiming that city employees have been seen spraying glyphosate while hanging out the window of their vehicles, which has been explained by Mr Elkins. Other comments are that they can smell glyphosate when it rains, but glyphosate is odourless and it's the other additives that is being smelt. And another that it is soaking the soil. But testing done by the City of Vincent in Hyde Park 8 days after application of glyphosate showed little to no residue in the soil. In November 2020, the Invasive Species Council published their paper titled "Glyphosate, A Chemical to Understand," in which Professor Ivan Kennedy, an expert in risk assessment and environmental fate of pesticides at University of Sydney, is quoted as saying, "The International Agency for Research on Cancer made a bad mistake in claiming glyphosate was a probable cause of cancer. There is no convincing evidence for this, and much evidence gathered in over 40 years about it as the safest herbicide known. Any replacement will more likely be damaging to human health." The Chief Executive of the Australian Cancer Council in the same article was quoted as saying, "There is no evidence there is a danger to kids who play in parks where Roundup is being sprayed." It would be very easy for me to become emotional on a topic involving cancer, but my decision tonight must be made on the basis of good governance and not be swayed by comments on social media or by people in attendance in the public gallery. So basing my decision on all this and the information contained in the officer's report, and until there is proof beyond a reasonable doubt that glyphosate causes cancer, or there is a viable alternative that is as effective on controlling weeds and as cost effective to ratepayers as glyphosate, I believe the city should continue business as usual in relation to how we manage and control weeds in our parks and reserves, and I'll be voting to support the officer's recommendation to take no further action. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Acker, do you have a pre-prepared statement as well? Does someone like to speak against? So the recommendation that he was speaking for was that council note the resolution of the electors' general meeting that the city stop using glyphosate. So the resolution is to note.
Thank you. I'll be voting against that recommendation. As stated before, I'd like to have more information about the alternatives, again looking at best practice and looking at what our neighbouring local governments are doing in this field. I think you know, Councillor Rouse there for your speech, but it isn't reflective of how our neighbours are approaching this. And I'd like us to stay at the forefront of how we manage and look at the use of these kinds of chemicals in the city. So I will be voting against this motion simply because I don't have all of the information to make a informed decision right now.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Sargent.
I feel that a conversation that this officer's recommendation, I understand completely the financial concerns laid out, Mr. Elkins' case of the information provided, but I believe that I'm going to side with Councillor Penny in the fact that this particular recommendation is a blanket no, and I feel that a conversation about is there any hybrid alternatives that is it not worth one briefing session's worth of discussion to go any cards on the table? Is there any ideas? Is there anything else we can do going forwards, even if it is solely to go, let's have a discussion about how can we communicate with our community, how can we have our community feel slightly heard. I'm very clear that the city has practices, that they have controls with their contractors, but this is a topic that our community is raising concerns, and it's not just one member of our community. There are many that, and clarification, this document, what Councillor Rouse has said today, there's a lot of things that if that was messaged and people had understanding or, yes, I'm going to vote against this because I feel that this is a very definite resolution and that a conversation could be had. Thank you.
Sorry, just to respond to that, the definite resolution. Now, this is the resolution is in fact an item that's come from the electors' general meeting. So, and we're basically we're resolving to either agree or disagree with the motion from the electors' general meeting, which means it is what it is. So it's based on the motion that Ms. Christensen moved. There's no reason why a future council could not discuss or move an alternative to the use of glyphosate in the future. What I will say to councillors is questions and emails a couple of hours before the council meeting when you received the agenda last Thursday is far from a good governance of the City of Kwinana. That you've had plenty of opportunity to ask the officers the questions that you could have, and many people chose to leave until the last minute. So, again, let's just ensure that in future, if there's items like this that are creating some public angst, that councillors actually ask the questions early. Does anyone else like to speak? I'll put it to the vote. All in Councillor Rouse.
Right of reply, I do believe, Your Worship. Just in reply to Councillor Penny, our neighbours and the 27 councils involved with Walga's Integrated Weed Management Working Group still use glyphosate in certain circumstances. In reply to Councillor Sargent, I don't believe this decision is a blanket no. We can still discuss with our community without voting to cease the use of glyphosate or seek any alternatives. This is just for us to continue business as usual. And as the Mayor has pointed out, this does not stop any decisions in the future in the use of glyphosate. Thank you.
So I'll put the officer's recommendation to the vote. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. Item 18.3, I believe there's an amendment, which I don't have in front of me, so I'm not sure what that is. So we're substituting Carlingford for Sutton Boulevard, is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, yes, that's correct. It's to recognise the original farm homestead that the subdivision sits over the top of, and the developer, we've approached the developer and they've agreed to make the change.
Can we also just note that the officer's recommendation says for use within Providence Estate? It's actually not Providence Estate. I believe it's it's Wellard. The estate's probably irrelevant because.
Yeah, I think you should just change it to a Wellard estate, within a Wellard estate. I think we just go a Wellard Doug, just change it to a Wellard estate.
Do council have any questions in relation to the road names? No? Someone like to move that way? Moved, Councillor Kearney, and I'll second the item. Councillor Kearney, do you wish to speak on the item?
Yes, I think this is the first time that I've been on council that I've liked all the names.
I chose to speak to second the item just so I could acknowledge that that change of the road name acknowledges the fact that the location of the development was the site of Sutton Farm, which was demolished by the previous owner, and as most people will be remember, due to ultimately an administrative error, or not error, they were entitled to demolish the property because at the time it didn't have the required heritage approval. Anyway, I this would again like to acknowledge that the developer has taken that into consideration, and I believe that there will be some sort of acknowledgement at the public open space within this estate. If anyone likes to speak against, if not, I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Uh, 19.1 Monthly Financial Report, February 2025. Is there any additional information? Council have any questions? Someone like to move that way? Moved, Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Acker. Would either councillors wish to speak? Anyone speak against? Put to the vote. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. Item 19.2, Draft Integrated Planning Document Strategic Community Plan Major Review. Is there any additional information?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors have any questions? Councillor Penny?
Thank you. I just have a question, two questions actually. One in relation to the community engagement process around feedback for this, it's going out for a draft for a discussion. What's the process for gaining that feedback and integrating feedback into this report?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it'll be similar to the approach we took to getting vision and big ideas for the community as part of the initial consultation process. So we'll do our normal things. It'll be on our Facebook page, our web page, Love My Kwinana, but we'll also do a road show. So we will get out to community events and various community locations to talk to people directly and encourage them to be part of the consultation process.
And my second question relates to the workforce plan. I noticed in terms of staff turnover that the city's sitting below the Walga average. Back in 2018, we were, the average was, the rates was 15 and 16%, 15% average for Walga and 16% for the city. And then consistently since then, our staff turnover has been approximately 6% above that average for every year. I just wanted to, through you, Mr. Mayor, find out, is this statistically significant? And if so, how is the city approaching these statistics? Is there reporting through exit interviews and those kinds of things to understand? While it's really well acknowledged that the city has a fantastic work culture and people love working here, it is a concern if there's a portion of our workforce that's turning over, that comes at quite a lot of expense. So my question as well is, how are we capturing that data in exit interviews? Of course there's confidentiality there, so I'm not expecting detailed reporting, but is there statistics or an understanding of trends why staff members would be leaving? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for that question, Councillor. So yes, we obviously monitor these statistics. We also look at a whole lot of other factors in regards to our workforce. I think you picked up on one of the things is the culture here is obviously extremely good. We're in the top 10% of local governments within Australia and New Zealand. The city has also had a number of successes and awards through the projects that we do. We do a lot of leadership development and training with our staff. So as a result, there's probably a little bit of the success of the organisation. And so the staff then become highly valuable in terms of other areas. They also want to be working closer to home. So there's a little bit of that. We undertake exit surveys with all staff when they leave. So we're looking at why they're leaving, what are the issues that are around it, and then we're trying to address it. So we do have things in place around that. Obviously, there are things such as remuneration, work environment, all come into play. So we're looking at a whole range of factors, but a large part of it is our staff are highly valuable.
Another question, Councillor Penny? Any more questions? Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Sargent, seconded. Councillor Acker. Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. I just want to commend the City of Kwinana for this amazing document. It was an honour to be part of workshops and frameworks with the Mayor and the fellow councillors and see how this works. I cannot compliment enough how this document shows transparency, accountability, is made user-friendly, and you are also highlighting how you're working with the sustainability framework, and you've got the UN goals. This is just a fantastic document that clearly and easily user-friendly, any member of the community can pick up and see where you're going, what you're doing. This is just a brilliant piece of work, and a special honourable mention to Alicia for all of her work in the background, but everyone that was involved, I think it was amazing, and being part of the process and then actually reading it, it was just so well put together. So congratulations to everyone involved, and it's fantastic.
Councillor Acker. Would anyone like to speak against? Sure. Sure.
Apologies, this could be a point of order issue because I most probably should have spoken when I should have asked another question as well. But I would like to speak for this item because, I again acknowledge the amount of work that's gone into it and the detailed and robust look at, how we plan for our city moving forward over the next 30 years. I'm looking forward to hearing the feedback from the community on these items. I will note that while I'm 100% supportive of this document, I did note that there was still that point about changing the perception of Kwinana. It might just be my bugbear. You'll most probably hear me talk about this for the next couple of years. So we'll see how the community feel about that wording. But really commend all the officers, the team and community members who contributed to this document.
We'll put the item to the vote. All in favour? Against? Item carried. There's nothing on item 20. Yes, there is. Item 20.1, notice of motion, advocacy for the temporary closure of Penguin Island for Little Penguin Conservation, which will be moved by Councillor Rouse. Councillor Rouse, would you like to obviously move the item?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move the motion that Council 1 advocates for A, the support of City of Rockingham advocacy proposal for the immediate closure of Penguin Island to the general public for a period of no less than 2 years to allow for uninterrupted breeding, molting and the recovery of little penguin colony, and B, the implementation of a suitable exclusion zone around Penguin Island prohibiting the motorised boats, including jet skis, windsurfing and kiteboarding to reduce penguin deaths from watercraft strikes, and 2, to request the Chief Executive Officer to write to the Premier and the Minister for Environment as well as relevant federal ministers and the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions, expressing the City of Kwinana's support for the advocacy position adopted by the City of Rockingham and urging immediate action to protect the little penguin population.
Do I have someone to second the item? Councillor Sargent. Councillor Rouse, would you like to read your pre-prepared statement?
I'll just read my rationale here that's included in the agenda, Your Worship, but I'll read it out for those playing along at home. This notice of motion is in support of the recent motion carried by the City of Rockingham and supports community views regarding the plight of the Little Penguin Colony. The City of Kwinana Council has previously supported advocacy motions by the City of Rockingham regarding Penguin Island. A closure will allow the little penguins to prepare their nests, court, breed, lay and hatch their eggs, and care for their chicks without undue interference of humans, and the implementation of an exclusion zone will reduce the risk of death by boat strike, with some estimates attribute to 25% of deaths to the chicks and mature penguins whilst in the waters surrounding the island. The Little Penguin Advisory Group is required to report to the Director General of Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions by December 2025. However, due to the severe rapid decline of the little penguin population and the length of time before a report is submitted, immediate implementation of the above should be given priority while the advisory group takes its time to consider further appropriate action for preservation, conservation and recovery of the little penguin colony on Penguin Island. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Sargent, do you have anything to add on the little penguins?
I see as elected members, Kwinana and Rockingham do have close ties together and working together, and I would hope that the councillors of Rockingham, if there was a very rare, very special, very unique colony of something here. We don't get penguins in Kwinana, but if we did, that the Council of Rockingham would stand with us to support something.
We have a seal at the swimming pool.
We'll do the Save the Sammy appeal and ask them to support us, but I would like to think as good neighbours, good friends in governance, when you are trying to protect something unique and special in conservation, many hands together make a stronger action. So I fully support what Councillor Rouse is doing here and hope my fellow councillors feel the same. Thank you.
Anyone speak against the little penguins? No. I'll put the item to the vote. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. Nothing on item 21. Item 22, late and urgent business. We do have an item of late business. Could we move to accept the item of late business? Moved Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Sargent. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. The item is 22.1, Chief Executive Officer's Performance and Remuneration Review, 24-25, appointment of the appraisal agent and schedule of review. And as this item is of a confidential nature, we will deal with it at item 26. Reports of elected members. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. 20th of March, attended the JDAP with Councillor Rouse. 24th of March, attended State Council for a Walga policy team meeting. 30th of March, had an opportunity to participate in Neighbour Day by attending Medina Green to be able to catch up with community and listen to the concerns and the voices of the community at that event. 2nd of April, represented State Council with Walga at the State Forum. 8th of April, attended an interesting event. It was the inaugural Aboriginal Elected Members Forum. We have actually got 27 Aboriginal elected members across 129 councils, and it was an opportunity for those to be able to answer questions in relation to becoming new to council, as well as those that have been in council for a long time. Mr Matsumoto, I think he was the longest. He's been in for 28 years in Broome, which is a long time. And it was a good opportunity, obviously, to build some of those networks and providing some of those supports around some of those issues around the governance process and the role of being a councillor and living in community. And that was also led to a very successful WA Local Government Aboriginal Engagement Forum on the 9th, which was held at Fraser's in Kings Park. It was a sold-out event. I think they ticketed it for 280. They knocked back, I think, 50 or more people to go to that event. One of the items of note, I must admit, was a part of a community engagement with the Midland Gate Shopping Centre with the City of Swan. And the theme of the forum was Doinch Doinch Malinging, which is working together, and how communities and Aboriginal communities and services work closely with government to get better outcomes. It was an opportunity for engagement with disengaged youth that were causing problems around the Midland Gate shopping area. They managed to get come up with a strategy and got renowned artists Peter and Miranda Farmer to do some artworks and designs, and they conducted a fashion show. And shoes and items were not only provided by local retailers within the shopping centre, but also there was some items that some of the young ladies were wearing were from Jimmy Choo. So it had some global exposure, and a few of those that were modelling on the catwalk did participate in WA Fashion Week, which was a couple of weeks later. So I thought it was a great example of how we could work and maybe consider enhancing what we do in Kwinana with the youth that we have, because we've got the successful Art Light program, which is continuing on working, and other initiatives, bringing all the agencies in Kwinana to work to make sure that that not only people feel safe at the shopping centre, but there's also an opportunity to hold events down there for people to go down and see. And finally, Your Worship, attended the Exec Appraisal Committee on the 14th. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Acker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the 20th of March, along with some of my other councillors, fellow councillors and city staff, I went on a tour of the waste facility in Canningvale. The 8th of April, again, along with some fellow councillors and yourself and city staff, went on a tour of the waste to energy facility here in Kwinana. I found both experiences very informative. It helped me understand what happens to our waste and why we're going to a GO system. And on the 14th of April, I attended the Executive Appraisal Committee meeting. Thank you.
Councillor Brown. Turn
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Brown.
So on Saturday 29th of March, I attended the relaunch of the RSL Medina Markets, held at Pace Road each Saturday, 7 a.m. to 12. I want to wish a big well done to the Kwinana RSL sub-branch of our RSL WA for all the efforts to refresh and revitalise this long-running event in the heart of the city, which saw plenty of locals attend the kick-off to enjoy the live music and a variety of market stalls. It was also great to bump into Madeline King MP, who joined in the festivities as well. Then the rest of the weekend was dominated by a number of Neighbour Day events. So I attended on Saturday as well the Leader Neighbour Day and the Casuarina Wellard Progress Association Street Meet for Neighbour Day as well. And then on Sunday the 30th of March, I attended the Medina Neighbour Day held in conjunction with the Medina Residents Group. Big shout out to everyone who hosted and attended Neighbour Day events across Kwinana on that weekend. It was fantastic to see our community come together, build connections and celebrate what it means to be a good neighbour. On Sunday, the 6th of April, I attended the Smirks Cottage Open Day, held at the Smirks Heritage Site in Medina. Big kudos to the Kwinana Heritage Group and other stakeholders for preserving an incredible amount of the city's history in a single spot, featured in the on-site museum and in the preserved cottages. Having lived in Kwinana my whole life, it was quite mind-blowing to see some of the items on display, including those that link back to where I currently live in Homestead Ridge, with objects from the old Wellard Hospital site from Shipwright Avenue on display in the museum. If you've never been, I highly recommend you attend one of the regular open days held on the first Sunday of every month between 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Then on Wednesday, the 9th of April, Councillor Kearney and I attended a community meeting facilitated by the Casuarina Wellard Progress Association, which focused on the proposed Casuarina Neighbourhood Centre Part 11B application for significant development. City officers, including Acting Director of City Development and Sustainability, Mr. Kamal, delivered an overview of the proposal being managed by DPLH and took questions from local residents. I would like to share some of the key concerns concerns raised by residents at the event. There were concerns raised about the increased traffic, particularly on Mortimer Road. A number of residents said that a lot of people aren't hugely against this development, but it's not hitting the mark in terms of creating places for community connection or to linger. Rather, it's a lot of drive through and go. There was concerns raised around the environmental impact of the development. It was perceived there was no plans to protect any of the vegetation, and there was concern for black cockatoo habitat. There was concern raised around a number of fast food outlets that are planned, with the community saying there were too many, which is seen as a negative, and they were asking about what other options could be considered as part of that development.
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor Brown. Can you just confirm the location of that neighbourhood centre? Is that the one that's on Mortimer Road?
No,
That's Thomas.
Thomas
to
Road.
the
Oh, it's the one at the Argyle Royal.
No, talking about that whole area.
Yeah.
Argyle Royal. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, there's a similar application into the same Department of Planning section in relation to a supermarket development on Mortimer Road. That's why I thought that's what you were talking about, because I thought that was more in keeping with the Progress Association. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. And the last concern of note would be the issue of vacant land as they wait for tenants. So there's a concern that the blocks could sit cleared for a long period of time. Sorry, that wasn't the last concern. The last concern I noted from the meeting was that local residents wanted updates on kind of subdivision plans in the local area. And there was a comment raised around that they wanted more block sizes in the same vein as Homestead Ridge as part of the developments to support development of housing, but they also want to maintain the natural character of the area through larger block sizes. So the city...
Yeah.
Sorry?
If I may, Mr. Mayor. So was it, could you just go back, was it the size of the blocks? What did they say?
Wanted them that big.
Oh, so as part of the development, so instead of really small block sizes, a number of residents raised the idea that these developments could consider larger block sizes included in the developments like those seen at Homestead Ridge, so they could have bigger trees to retain the natural character of the area. So, so I'd just like to pass on that the city received positive feedback and thanks from the Casuarina Wellard Progress Association following the meeting. I would also like to express my thanks to officers for supporting this meeting. Given the process is managed and owned by DPLH, it wasn't necessarily a requirement for city officers to conduct this session, but by doing so, the city supporting residents with their concerns was really appreciated. It led to really good discussion, and I think it was a good example of the city of Kwinana going the extra mile in situations where other cities may not do the same based on a technicality. That's something I'm proud of standing here as an elected member, because it's stuff like that which really helps build connections between the city and our residents, and ultimately we're all better for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Kearney.
Right, I haven't really got anything much more because I went same thing as Dave went to, Councillor Acker, and the same meeting as. But I did want to thank Brett for organising that meeting. The people were very appreciative and thanked us so much for organising it. And I'll just wish everybody a happy Easter.
Thank you. Councillor Penny.
Yes, thank you. Like Councillor Brown, I also got to visit the RSL markets in Medina on the 29th of March and commend Nassim and the RSL for the work that they're doing to revitalise those markets and reinvent and recreate and bring more people down to sunny Medina on a beautiful Saturday morning. And also on the 30th of March, again, the Medina Residents Group outdid themselves with their Neighbour Day event, a stunning morning to afternoon under the trees there. On the 1st of April as well, I also attended a Heritage Essentials seminar for elected members at the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage, and also attended the Perth Southwest Metropolitan Alliance regional briefing, which was very informative, and many elected members were there from across the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse.
Thank you, Your Worship. As the Deputy Mayor alluded to earlier, on Thursday the 20th of March we attended the JDEP meeting. This was to consider the sand extraction mine in the Casuarina Central Cell, which after a lengthy debate we successfully had the item deferred so the panel could consider new environmental issues that came to light, which was namely the probable cumulus spring on the area that three of the panel members needed clarification on. So, and on Monday the 7th of April, I attended the Bullamara, and you've all seen those minutes as included in this agenda. But again, I'd just like to thank Deputy Chair Paul Garlett for presiding over the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rouse. Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. On the 23rd of March, I had the fantastic experience of going and hanging out at the early neighbourhood event with the Wandie Progress Association. I have learnt that if you would like to learn any kind of craft that has to do with wood, that this is the place to go, and they are all named slightly differently. There is some amazing wood carvers that just would make these beautiful little piece birds that would sit in your hand, and it's all carved from one bit of wood. There is something called marquetry, which is little tiny bits of wood that you jigsaw together to make pictures from. This gentleman had made a box, and it was like a chess piece, but it was all 3D and very fantastic. Then you have these other people that do something called scroll sawers, and they had made a Big Ben and the coolest Cinderella princess carriage, but it was not operational and I couldn't ride in it. But and then there's the wood turners as well, that they also, with some turning things smooth, fantastic made pieces of wood. And then on top of that, there was the fantastic people from the Sword Point Association. And I have very exciting news that maybe Mayor Feasy is looking for a council get-together challenge. They do lightsabers. Just saying, I thought I would mention that. But yes, they are real lightsabers. They're in Kwinana. There are
We've
people.
already heard about Ock Health and Safety today.
Oh.
It's one way to get rid of the weeds.
Okay, but no, what the Wandie Progress Association is doing out of Wandie Hall, and all of these organisations that are working together and collaboratively, and it was just peaceful and fun and informative, and I've never wanted to go and try and make something with a piece of wood, and this lovely gentleman was using a saw, and I'm like, should I not talk to you? And then he put his finger going, no, you can't do it. And I was like, oh, okay. So no one lost any fingers, and it was a fantastic event. Thank you.
Councillor Wood.
Yeah, I've performed all those duties required of me, and along with Councillor Kearney, I attended the Access and Inclusion Reference Group. There was a guest speaker from the Communities Inclusion Connection team who gave a very informative talk on their services, which provides 3 core functions. Called Communities Inclusion Navigation, which links people to the appropriate services. So if somebody rings up, they can send them in the right direction. B, Communities Inclusion Connection, which basically provides service and system navigation for individuals, and early intervention plus advocacy and planning for individuals with disabilities. And C, Communities Inclusion Engagement, which directly links key stakeholders and community groups, identifying any gaps and barriers to services, and develops solutions for unmet needs. Anyone in WA can access the team's Community Inclusion Navigators, the original one, which will send you in the right direction, and people with disability requiring additional support may be eligible to access the Community Inclusion Connectors if they reside in the Perth metro area. It's a not-for-profit service, and the City of Kwinana also provided the City of Kwinana also provided an officer to talk through the tree bin rollout and to the members, plus explaining the Kwinana energy recovery. Also, the library accessibility guides have been completed, and easy read and digitally accessible versions are available to be properly read by screen readers. The next stage is to have them uploaded to the city's website to be shared with local organisations. An active travel officer is also looking to bring a Cycle Without Age event to Kwinana. On the 3rd of April, I attended the PSWMA regional briefing along with Councillor Penny, which was held at East Fremantle. On the 6th of April, along with Councillor Brown, I visited Smirks Cottage for their open day and was very impressed with our local museum and the depth of knowledge displayed by the volunteers. On the 8th of April, along with councillors and city staff, I went on a tour to the waste energy plant, which they like to call it now the Kwinana Energy Recovery Plant, located in the Kwinana's industrial area. The plant's nearly finished its commissioning and is already operating quite smoothly. On the 14th of April, I also attended the Executive Appraisal Committee meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. As to the questions which were taken on notice, Anil, mayoral announcements. Along with many, I attended many of those events. The Neighbour Day event at Leader, along with Councillor Brown. Councillor Brown ate most of the cake, just for the record. The Casuarina Wellard Progress Association, very well attended by the new committee and a number of residents, as well as a number of old residents. I attended the Apsley Neighbour Day event put on by the Apsley Town team on the Sunday. Along with many councillors, I also attended the Neighbour Day event in Medina on the Sunday, and I did have the pleasure of announcing at that event the city's Community Person of the Year, which is a lady by the name of Anna Parker. Is that her last name? Yeah, that's the last name. Anna's been involved for many years through the Medina Residents Association, and in due course there'll be a celebration of her win. As a number of councillors also mentioned, the attending the Kwinana Heritage Group last Sunday, Sunday before. I can also just advise that the Kwinana Heritage Group were awarded the Kwinana Group of the Year. So, and again, there'll be celebrations in the coming weeks to celebrate that. And the last award, before I go back to my report, was the Kwinana Aboriginal Person or Group of the Year, which has been awarded to Nulla Yorga Wankan Aboriginal Corporation and Cindy Ballard. So congratulations to all those people. Again, there'll be some celebrations in the coming weeks. What else did I do? Along mainly what everyone else has done, I did meet with the Shire President of Bridgetown Greenbushes at the Adventure Park, along with a project officer that the Shire has employed, and they wanted to have a look at our fantastic Adventure Park. Well, it turns out the project officer that they've employed was the general manager at Josh Byrne & Associates, and he did out himself as being the person responsible for the death of the main tree as you walk into the park, because they trenched too close to it, he told me. But I showed them around the park, and we had some general conversations about how the community uses the park and how people from outside come in. There's been a number of community engagement sessions, one of which I'll mention is the community engagement at Sandringham Park in Aurelia. Aurelia is one of those parks where the community was surveyed as far as what they wanted in their park, chose all the elements, and ultimately, even though it did take some time, the park was delivered. And so I think it was last week there was a celebration of that park being completed, which was actually very well attended by the local community. Apart from that, we did get a measly election commitment of $2.5 million just yesterday from the federal member for Brand, if the Albanese government is re-elected, and that $2.5 million is to go towards, I think it's stage 2 and a bit of the Kwinana Loop Trail. So we're well on our way to being able to complete that project. So we now have close to $6 million to do that project. And before I finish, I will just remind councillors that the Kwinana RSL will be commemorating Anzac Day at 5:50 for the dawn service next Friday, and 10:30 for the morning service. For those people that wish to attend and acknowledge the Anzacs and the return service men and women. Can I also just acknowledge the Kwinana Knights Football Club, who are providing the, I guess, gunfire breakfast / bacon egg rolls, which is being funded by the city, in actual fact. There are, what else is there? Where's the agenda gone? There is one item of confidential nature. Could someone move that we go behind closed doors? Move, Deputy Mayor. Seconded, Councillor Acker. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. Could everyone bar Mrs. Wilkshire depart the... Oh, yeah, well, okay. It's probably... Behind closed doors, council resolved that council would, 1, appoint Helen Harcourt from Learning Horizons as the appraisal agent to undertake the performance and remuneration review of the Chief Executive Officer for 24-25, and adopt the following approximate timeline for the CEO's performance review process. As you can see on the screen, there's a number of dates, number of meetings, a number of opportunities for councillors to have their say in relation to the key performance indicators, and I think that's probably sufficient. There are no more items of business, so I declare the meeting closed at 7:59. Thank you for attending. Who won?